Watching this morning, Charlie Kirk, suspected killer, is making his first in-court appearance today. A judge in Utah will hear arguments about media access and then consider the defense request to ban cameras from the courtroom. All this happening as Kirk's widow, Erica, defends her husband's legacy. She's rejecting all the conspiracy theories surrounding his murder.
Can I have one thing? Can I have one thing? Can my children have one thing? Everything was public. Can my babies have one thing where we hold it sacred, where my husband is laid to rest, where I don't have to be worried about some secular revolutionary coming and destroying my husband's grave while my daughter is sitting there praying? One thing, I do not have time to address the noise. My silence does not mean that I am complacent. My silence does not mean that somehow Turning Point USA and all of the handpicked staff that Lisbon loved them is somehow in on it. We are busy building. Anytime we hear a lead or anytime we hear anything, we send it to the authorities. Please dig into this. No rock will be unturned. I want justice for my husband, for myself, for my family, more than anyone else out there.
The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love. They should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. So I want to tell you that we'll never surrender. We never will. Ever. Ever.
Today is Thursday, December 11th, 2025, and we're going to talk about the real conspiracy behind Charlie Kirk's assassination. Seems to be the only thing that everybody wants to talk about today. And I think that we can all agree that we need to take the pressure down and apply it to the true agencies in charge of what happened to Charlie Kirk. New January 6th pipe bomber bombshells continue. Pipe bomber bombshells. We should work on scripting that one. Barry Loudermilk, who is a congressman who's in charge of the new investigation, joins us in order to shed some light on what we've learned, the curious case of the January 6th Steve Urkel bomber, we call him. Also, the Attorney General of the state of Florida, James Uthmeyer, will be on the program. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Our show, we try and stay clean on this program. We're going to talk about what that means in just a second. But we want to live clean. I very much have a Maha wife, and masa chips are on our table every single night. Now, she is extremely picky. Kate, Nurse Kate, as many know her, is someone who does not allow seed oils in our house, does not allow food dye. In fact, she nuked some candy canes the other night because they were those like Skittle candy canes. And she's like, no, my kids are not going to get any red dye 40 or whatever poisons there are, yellow, tetrazine, whatever. The point is that this is a household that only has true fresh food and ingredients that aren't bad for you. And masa chips are allowed on my table every single night. What does that say? Well, it says that masa chips are, one, good for you. They're made out of 3 all-natural ingredients, just corn, salt, and beef tallow. All this stuff comes from God. And ladies and gentlemen, in our Christmas season, we should recenter our lives around the great things that God has given to us. You can pick up a bag of masa chips in Sprouts Markets. You can order them right now, masachips.com/Benny. Use the code Benny for 25% off your first order, masachips.com. Code Benny for 25% off. Would it make a great Christmas gift? I don't exactly know. How much do you like chips? I'm a big-time snacker. So my wife makes sure there's healthy snacks all over the place, and masa chips are one of the very few snacks that are allowed in our household. Masa chips today, ladies and gentlemen. The entire internet is melting down over who killed Charlie Kirk and how. And I want to begin this conversation by saying I have tried my hardest to be a good faith operator, to let people mourn, to let people grieve in their own way, and to allow people to ask questions. We ask a lot of questions on this program. And I want to establish, for a factual basis here, that there's no one on earth who wants to find and punish Charlie Kirk's killer more than me. Sure, I mean, obviously there's a lot of people that are very invested in this, but Charlie was my friend. Charlie, somebody reached out to me over a decade ago to build Turning Point. I'm never shared some of these photos publicly, but I feel like now is the time to just say, I want the killer of Charlie Kirk to meet his maker, to face the death penalty. You know, I built Turning Point Productions at Charlie's request. I was the MC at the major events early on. Again, this is like pre-Donald Trump. This is how early I got involved in Turning Point. And as you can see here, we built Charlie's Prove Me Wrong with hand-drawn posters, right? And then here you go. This is the beginnings of Turning Point Productions. We traveled the world together. I don't pretend to be integral to the Charlie Kirk show. Again, like I sort of like decided in 2020 we were going to go build our own thing. Charlie built his own show. I built my own show. We thought it'd be good for the ecosystem. Sobek went out and built his own thing. Candace went out and built her own thing. And, you know, the net benefit to the movement is that you're able to have a very robust, independent ecosystem. Conversations is something that Charlie always wanted. Here's Charlie and Tucker Carlson, famously outside of a Turning Point event where they locked the doors in Palm Beach, the first Turning Point event after Joe Biden became president. The Democrat county locked the doors and wouldn't let more kids in. There were so many thousands of kids outside that Tucker Carlson, Charlie Kirk got a bullhorn and did a mini rally in the street. It was wild times. Tucker Carlson sounding off for the first time about Charlie yesterday in his assassination. We spent a lot of time backstage at Charlie's memorial. The point is that I want Charlie Kirk's killer found. And I want him killed. I want the firing squad. I want that because we know Erica Kirk. I emceed their wedding. We were there when they first met. I was there the last time I saw Charlie just a few months ago here in Tampa. And this is the last photo that we have together. Before Charlie was killed at a stop just a month before he and I were supposed to take the stage together at an event in Montana. I was going to be joining Charlie on his tour just weeks after he was killed, and everything changed. And so I'm not going to release a bunch of text messages with Charlie. I'm not trying to prove anything here. There's a bunch of people that had connections to the man. Again, I have said it on the hundreds of interviews I've done on this subject matter, all across the spectrum, whether it's Fox News, whether it's corporate media, whether it's independent media. Charlie Kirk would have been president. Charlie Kirk was a generational leader. There's no replacing a Charlie Kirk, a Rush Limbaugh, a Donald Trump. They're unique. And I want to just set the record straight that what we require in this current environment is the truth. Here's a photo I haven't posted. Charlie Kirk and Dan Bongino, who's now in charge of the FBI. Deputy Director of the FBI, most people will tell you that that is the most powerful position at the FBI. I got a chance to talk with Dan Bongino at Charlie's memorial. This was a meeting that we had in Florida after Joe Biden won. And we're just kind of scheming what to build next. Dan was always helpful, always supportive of everything Charlie was doing. He loved Charlie. And so I want to separate two things. And I believe that Candace loved Charlie. I mean, I know that. I saw that. You know, on stage, behind the scenes, like they had such great. So I don't want this to be a show that attacks the personalities. I don't want this to be a show that attacks individuals who I think, quite frankly, nobody expected themselves to be in this situation right now. It still like sits very heavily on all of us. And I want it to be a show that simply focuses on 3 major unanswered questions that we still have about Charlie's murder, and then some facts about Charlie's murder that are not spoken enough. Some facts about the legal process, just like we did with Epstein, to talk through why people are suspicious of the FBI and their work here and what we can do about it. Why people are suspicious of our intel agencies and what we can do about it. How do we get closure? Isn't that what everyone's seeking? Isn't that what we all want? And so from my own unique position here, I want to open this all up by asking, why is it that so many Charlie Kirk conspiracy theories are out in the open? Well, because we are constantly lied to by the feds. And any independent and good faith inquiry of this without acknowledging that is, I think, tainted and insults the audience. And we won't do that on this program. Here are just some of the baseline understandings of lies, demonstrable lies that have been told to us by federal agencies about high-profile murders that they either had a hand in or that they refused to reveal all of the evidence. Just off the top of the dome, for the past couple of weeks, what have we learned? We learned that the CIA has been hiding for 70 years their connection to Lee Harvey Oswald and the murder of JFK. Is there a greater assassination in American history than Charlie Kirk? Not in modern history, but the last one was JFK. We know, of course, so much more about Charlie's murder than we know about JFK's murder. We have so much better technology. We don't have to depend on the Zapruder film, 1 frame per second. We have DNA testing for rifles. We have this caught from many angles. And we have so much more understanding about what happened that day, even though the full picture isn't there. Nonetheless, it's taken 70 years for our CIA to stop lying to us just a little bit. They're still lying to us, and we know that. This kind of stuff atomizes trust. And it's not fair to anybody to not acknowledge it. Benny, that was JFK, presidential assassination 70 years ago. Shut up, right? We're living in the modern era. Oh, really? The modern era? Like Thomas Crooks that shoots Trump in the head? They incinerate his body faster than like a gerbil that died in a hamster wheel, household pet. You know, people flush goldfish not as fast as the federal government scrubbed literally all of the evidence. And whatever, you know, I don't know what that really means. But I know it looks strange. And I know we don't know everything about this guy. And I know that the FBI lied. Not the political leadership of the FBI right now, Cash and Dan. But the FBI at the time, it was run by Joe Biden, openly went to Congress. The agent in charge of this investigation goes into Congress and says, you know, Thomas Matthew Crooks was a right-winger. When they're in the public arena, there is demonstrable evidence that he is not only a Trump hater, but a far left-wing radical using pronouns. Involved in deviant furry porn, and so on. Why didn't they say that? Wouldn't that have changed everything if we knew that the shooter of President Trump was a leftist? Of course it would. It would have changed everything. That's a lie that the FBI told us about an assassination. I mean, he did kill a member of the MAGA movement, Corey Compertor, rest his soul, and pray for his family. They hit President Trump in the head with a bullet. And the FBI then lied about it. And then, of course, obviously, less than 24 hours is power washing the evidence onto the floor. We still have never seen an autopsy. We still have never seen a toxicology report. We still have no idea who he's talking to on his phone seconds before shooting President Trump. We don't know. And that enrages people because we pay these federal agencies to do these investigations. And then fast forward to just a week ago. You can see him right here. I mean, why not? Yeah, perfect. Here is President Trump's assassin on the phone with someone getting some type of information. This photo is taken from a sniper in the building, looking down on Tyler Robinson. And, well, didn't take the shot. Nobody will know. He still got nothing. And now we know as a matter of fact that the FBI hid the identity of the pipe bomber on January 6th. And that there is a spiraling and spawning broader conspiracy there. We know it. We're going to talk with the chairman, Barry Loudermilk, about this. So whether it's Donald Trump, I mean, we could have, here you can see, how do I know that? Well, here's the actual affidavit proving that in 2021, they had this guy. I'll read to you from it. It says in summary, we have the individual, the perpetrators, we have a cell phone identified that followed the path of the pipe bomber. The cell phone had 7 sessions and pinged the towers, and we've identified that phone and then nothing. Fast forward to today. The exact same line, the exact same report. They just take the redaction out of the name, and it's Brian Cole Jr. They had the guy in 2021, but they let MAGA peaceful protesters rot in jail or suicide themselves. They wanted them to die. They want us to die. They want us to kill ourselves. They would prefer we kill ourselves, which I think there are dozens. I don't know. I would like the exact number, but there are at least dozens of J6ers who killed themselves awaiting prosecution as soon as they found out that they were going to go to these rigged juries and be framed with this guy's crimes. They decided to end it. Where's the culpability there? In just a few months, we've learned lies from our federal law enforcement and intel agencies about JFK, about Thomas Crooks, and about the pipe bomber. And that is not even remotely an exhaustive list. The Trump administration didn't break these agencies. I think the question needs to be asked, can they be reformed at all? But when it comes to these, the atmosphere upon which you are going to do a Charlie Kirk investigation, it is morally dishonest to not describe the atmosphere in which federal law enforcement and state law enforcement are approaching this. And obviously, we all know the magnitude, the magnanimity of Charlie's personality is, of course, going to attract extra attention. Had a lot of crying individuals, people who knew Charlie, people who just knew him through social media. That happens often at these college campus stops and tours and stuff like that. I mean, I still work with Turning Point USA. And so many of these people that come up and are like sobbing and wiping tears thinking about Charlie. This happened just yesterday, actually. They never met him. Don't have his number. Don't have any connection to him at all. They're weeping and crying about his death. And why is that? Because Charlie was so ubiquitous in the social media feed, people knew him. You know, you just feel like you know people that you're seeing in such raw and authentic environments. And when you see Charlie, his family, his commentary, his little like selfie videos, that's just like connection, man. Something you didn't have with JFK or RFK or MLK. It's like a different depth of understanding of a person and feeling like you know them. And then Charlie's killed on a live stream. And we're all able to see it. And so you feel like you lost like a friend, like a family member. It's totally different than what happened on 9/11. The reason I say that is like, imagine if there was TikTok live streaming on 9/11. Like there was no social media on 9/11. Imagine if people had been able to live stream what it was like inside of the towers. Like how much more horrifying that event would be. You can sort of distance yourself from it because it's like a horror movie or some type of Michael Bay film. And the images don't really look real. So much about 9/11 doesn't feel real or is real. That's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about the difference. And that's the difference. The difference is that this is now hypercharged because people have these emotional feelings towards Charlie. Not just the people who know him, like Candace, Tucker, Erica. Erica, obviously, we love her. But what I'm trying to describe here is the kindling that gets set ablaze because so many people felt like they knew him and he affected us in a way that is kinetic and magical and real because of technology, right? And so this is why it hyper accelerates every theory, every information vacuum gets supercharged in this environment because of that. And I just want to describe, of course, setting the table for why things have gone so wildly off the rails. Obviously, Erica Kirk responding to Candace, Candace responding to Erica Kirk, Tucker Carlson jumping in, Theo Von jumping in, everyone's drawing lines, everyone's making a new battlefield and a new war. Charlie would have hated every second of it. I worked with Charlie so closely on some of these major schisms inside of the movement and the party. Charlie is somebody who wanted everyone to be brought together in order to defeat our common enemy, the left. And the left killed Charlie. Until somebody is able to provide for me the kind of demonstrable and empirical evidence that is going to change what we can read in the affidavit, the arrest of Tyler Robinson, then I'm going to tell you that all available evidence, Occam's razor, and logic points directly to the left killing Charlie. Before we get there, why are there so many questions? Well, we've set it all up, but there's one final important thing to note. The systemic failures of the federal government blend into how powerful and dynamic and electric of a personality Charlie was, how many people care about him, like him, love him, and can be manipulated, right, by unfounded theories or just curious about what the hell happened here based on our prior knowledge and lack of faith in the authorities. And then something happened that absolutely put all that on nuclear steroids, irradiated all of it, which is as soon as Tyler Robinson is arrested and charged, everything goes into pretrial judgment, and a gag order is placed on all law enforcement officials. Do I like that? Doesn't matter. I'm not in freaking charge of the Charlie Kirk assassination investigation. Neither are you, and neither is Candace, and neither is Tucker, and neither is Erica, to be quite honest with you. It's not our responsibility. I don't make the rules. When something goes pre-trial, then the judge, in order to not have an O.J. Simpson scenario, right? If you're old enough to remember O.J. Simpson, that entire trial, that went on for years because both sides, the prosecution and the defense, kept leaking all this information, all this slander, all this smut. They had to bounce jurors like crazy. They had to try and change counsels. Judges, lawyers get swapped, taken off because it was in L.A., the Kardashians. It was a mess. And so judges try and lock things down when they know they have a hot potato, when they have it's something that is radioactive in their courthouse that is going to be of high. They did this with Trump in many trials. And they make it so that the people that are presenting and preserving the evidence can't share it with the public, can't even speak to the public. The judge has done that in this trial. It is something that is quite common to do. Again, it happened to President Trump. Do I like it? Of course not. I hate it. And before we get into the affidavit and the actual evidence, which I believe is plenty in order to say Tyler Robinson is the man who pulled that trigger, and then the final big question about all of this, I want to establish something for the record. I hate it. I hate this. I hate it all. I hate that we don't have weekly briefings or daily briefings from the FBI. I hate that we don't have the opportunity. All this goes away if we had the opportunity to just ask questions. I'd sit there and ask questions. I I plan on going to Charlie's trial. I'm sorry, the Charlie killer trial. I would like to be there. We've applied for a credential. I want to be in that room. I want to see. And here's why. I'm horrified about what's going on. This judge is now granting Tyler Robinson a lot of niceties. Like, you can't film Tyler Robinson in the court. You can't show his shoes. He's not going to be wearing shackles. He's not going to be wearing court-ordered, garments. He's been given a lot of leniency by this judge already, and the judge is right now potentially going to be banning all cameras. All media may well be banned from this trial. That will do. And what it's already done, it will have the intended effect of further deteriorating and people's belief in the system and understanding what actually happened. And I'm so against it, and I'm enraged by it. Erica Kirk's enraged by it. I just want a clear-cut case. And I want the broader conspiracy to be brought to light. So here is the case as it stands right now. We're just going to read you the affidavit. You tell me how they're going to get around this one, man. They have the DNA evidence. DNA evidence that is found on that match, 1,000,000,000,000 perfect match that is on Tyler Robinson. We're reading the affidavit. That is on Tyler Robinson's rifle. It's actually his grandfather's rifle. It's a Mauser 98. And his DNA is present on the trigger, bolt handle, and everywhere that you touch when you are making the action on that rifle. Other parts of the rifle, the fired cartridge casings, 2 of the 3 unfired cartridges, and the towel in which they found the rifle. So for the people that are saying, Charlie was killed with a different gun or by a different person, you're going to have to explain to all of us, well, how is any ballistics team going to be able to match the bullet from that gun? How is any ballistics team going to be able to, send this off to an independent laboratory, independently verify the DNA on the murder weapon? Every single rifle has a very specific grain mark on every casing. So you'll be able to do independent verification of the bullets fired and which guns they come from. If you have the evidence that a bullet was fired from a different caliber rifle, from a different gun, then let's have it. But this is the case that has been presented entirely to the public. Not only do we have the DNA on all the murder weapons, but we have the bullets and the ballistics. I mean, it's going to be, and those ballistics went into Charlie, as we all saw. So what are you looking at here? You're looking at some pretty compounding evidence that rolls into one of the toughest parts of the case, which is his family. His family turning him in. Law enforcement was unable to immediately locate the shooter. They published photos of the surveillance video to help identify him. And his family said that's him. On the evening of September 11th, 2025, the law enforcement continued an investigation into Tyler Robinson. The Washington County Sheriff's Office, his parents and a family friend turned him in. How did they do that? Robinson's mother stated the following to police. On September 11th, 2025, the day after the shooting, Robinson's mother saw the photo of the shooter and on the news and knew that the shooter looked like her son. Robinson's mother called her son and asked where he was. He said he was homesick. Robinson's mother expressed concern to her husband, and her husband said, yeah, he looks a lot like the shooter. Robinson's mother explained that over the last year, Robinson had become more political, started to lean left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented, and she stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male, who was transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members, and especially between Robinson and his father, very different political views. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk, said he was full of hate. And Robinson said it was a stupid venue to hold an event. Robinson's father reported that when his wife showed him the surveillance image and the suspected shooter on the news, He agreed that it looked like his son. He believed that the rifle that the police suspected the shooters matched the rifle that was given to his son as a gift. As a result, Robinson's father contacted his son, sent him the photo, and said, "Send me a photo of the rifle." Robinson did not respond. When his father spoke to him, Tyler Robinson said he's going to kill himself. So he planned to take his own life. Why would you do that if you were innocent? I'm a parent. Why would parents turn in their innocent kid? What compunction would you ever have as a parent to do that? It goes against all natural order. Your kid tells you he's suicidal. You call your kid. These photos look like you. Do you still have that rifle? The exact same rifle that you have. We go shooting as a family. You know you're a decent shot. Send me a photo of the rifle. I'm going to kill myself. What does that tell you as a parent? Come on. They discussed the situation. Robinson implied that he was the shooter and that he couldn't go to jail and he just wanted to end it all. And when asked why he did it, Robinson explained that there's too much evil in Charlie Kirk. He spreads too much hate. Just a reminder, Charlie Kirk was killed right when he was answering a question about transgender violence. Charlie was in the middle of answering questions about tranny violence, that of course was on the rise. Charlie spoke out against transgender violence. We just had a transgender mass shooter at a church in Minneapolis. They discussed the situation. They talked to Robinson about turning himself in, convinced Robinson to speak to his family. Retired deputy sheriff, Robinson's father, a request. The family friend met with Robinson. His parents convinced him to turn himself in. The family friend spoke to police, reportedly telling Robinson that it would be best if he brought all the evidence with him to the sheriff's office to avoid police having to search his parents' home. Family friend said Robinson also asked Robinson if he had any of the clothes that were related, and Robinson replied that he disposed of the clothes in different areas. Okay. Why don't we have all the evidence? Again, as soon as Robinson is charged, this entire case goes into a pretrial lockdown. I don't like it. I'm not here to argue that it's good. I'm here to say, how do we fix this? And what further questions do I have? What is the real conspiracy here? Somebody's going to have to present more evidence than this official affidavit that has DNA evidence, a family identification, independent identification from a family friend, law enforcement, the photos, the videos. Here's Tyler Robinson, allegedly running off the roof of the building after shooting Charlie. Also a very easy to access roof. So here are my real conspiracies, or let's just say my real angry theories about this, because as we have tried to present here and try and be as fair as possible, there are real questions. Question number one, where the hell were the drones, man? I know Charlie's security team has been out talking about it. Apparently the police were supposed to be on the rooftop there. Why weren't they there? Has anybody answered for that? Charlie's security went on the Sean Ryan show and produced text messages and evidence that the police said, no, we got the roof. Where the hell was that? It's like a similar Trump shooting setup. And it's always enraged me. Where the hell was the law enforcement on the roof? One officer. The roof is very easy to access. There's plenty of videos on YouTube of people going up and accessing the roof right now, even after the shooting. To say that it would be impossible to get up there is, I think, factually, totally and completely untrue. So why wasn't there somebody there? Again, this is something that the police need to answer. It's just incompetence. Is it malevolence? It certainly led to total and complete destruction. The second and very critical question, was Tyler Robinson acting alone? And these are the two final questions that are true, conspiracies. We have all these messages from all these different transgenders that are saying, like, get ready, Charlie Kirk's going to be killed tomorrow. You know, they're saying it in real time. We have their messages. We have the screenshots. Has anybody ever asked questions of these individuals? Has anybody ever, like, gone out and said, we are investigating all of them? There were dozens of accounts that posted that Charlie Kirk was going to have a really bad day, that tomorrow's going to change it. Get ready, watch Charlie Kirk. Watch what happens tomorrow at Charlie Kirk. These accounts are associated with militant, transgender, and Antifa accounts in the state of Utah. And a lot of those accounts got either nuked or completely deleted. The Trans Queers of Utah, which is a militant group that has very, very shady connections and funding, they got their account completely deleted in seconds after this shooting happened. Why? I think that is an absolute and total rational question to ask. Show us all of the Discord chats. Show us who was manipulating, encouraging, engraving, providing for Tyler Robinson, who was radicalizing him. And then finally, Lance Twiggs, the mysterious tranny boyfriend who did destroy evidence, according to the official report, did take some of the note Robinson left him, if you're to believe that. And I only say that because it's just very strange. I mean, this whole, the timeline, the notes, the way that they're described, it's very odd. But Lance Twiggs has gone completely missing. Nobody knows where the hell he is. Nobody's seen him. He's a far left-wing, angry little degenerate. And he's vanished. And nobody's seen or heard from him at all. Apparently, they had one engagement with the FBI, and then, poof, gone. I can say destroyed evidence because, according to the notes that were left for him by Tyler Robinson, destroy all of this stuff, delete everything. And apparently Lance Twiggs did delete quite a bit. And what effect did this monster have on Tyler Robinson's life? It is impossible. I mean, don't ask me. I'll believe the evidence when it's in front of my face. Don't ask me to suspend all belief and logic and say that his transgender boyfriend didn't know about or assist or accomplice in some way this assassination. I think these are very valid questions. Who else is involved? Broader conspiracy. And why the hell is the judge trying to block the media out? I think this kind of stuff is critical. And I think it's an honest, operator who's doing my best in order to try and not do the thing that Charlie would hate the most right now, which is to start flame wars and to start attacking people, and most importantly, to destroy Turning Point USA. I feel like it is important to just address all of this. It's so important that I plan on being at the trial. Because the only way that all of this breaking, which is starting to really crack the MAGA base, ends, is for there to be true justice in this scenario. And I believe that comes with the death penalty and a full reckoning of every single organization and institution, group, and individual that was engaging with Tyler Robinson, encouraging this, and a full-scale reckoning of all of their funding, of everyone involved. That's how you lower the pressure. You read people in You don't withhold and hide the evidence like they've done in so many different cases. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, it is perfect to ask questions to get to the truth. Just don't do so in a way that makes it impossible to get to the truth. So that's what we're looking for. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Chairman Loudermilk will be joining our program in just a second to answer questions about the pipe bomber. He's in charge of the investigation into January 6th. Republicans in the House, critically important. Before we get there, Fatty 15 is a supplement, and that is, well, very, very good for you if you lack energy, poor sleep, stiff joints, abnormal blood work, or anything else, real health concerns. A lot of it has to do with cell breakdown. There's healthy aging and bad aging for your cells. C15 from Fatty 15 is the first emerging essential fatty acid to be discovered in more than 90 years. It's an incredible scientific breakthrough that helps support your long-term health and wellness. Healthy aging is critical. Ladies and gentlemen, cellular fragility syndrome affects 1 in 3 people worldwide. Fatty 15 helps increase your cells' functionalities, lead to many other exciting benefits as we get older. Up to 72% of Fatty 15 customers report seeing and feeling the benefits in 16 weeks, including improved metabolic, smoother functioning joints, deeper sleep, and healthier hair, skin, and nails. This is essential. Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to help support your long-term health and wellness, especially as you age. You can get an additional 15% of their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/Benny and using code Benny at checkout. fatty15.com/Benny using code Benny at checkout. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining us now, the chairman of the January 6th committee in the House, Chairman Barry Loudermilk. Chairman Loudermilk, thank you so much for being on the program. I really appreciate it. It's something that we've been wanting to talk to you about for a long time, which is this documentation right here. What the hell is going on here? It looks like they had the pipe bomber in 2021. I'm sorry to just dive right into this, but we've been asking everybody about it. We thank you for releasing this evidence, but all of the evidence here from the 2021 findings seem to match perfectly the cell phone data from the 2025 findings, including the pings, the sessions, and the individuals. So did they have the pipe bomber in 2021 and just refuse to arrest him?
Well, that's what we're trying to find out right now. I mean, this is, obviously circumstantial evidence, but it does match up. I mean, it's a ping. We don't know the exact phone number, but it appears to be the same carrier in the same area. So that's one of the things we're asking the FBI. In fact, in the meeting I had with them yesterday, I asked them to verify whether or not the phone number of Mr. Cole was one of the target lists that they had narrowed down their cell phone investigation to back in February of 2021. I mean, they had identified 186 potentially suspicious phones, or not, I should say suspicious, but numbers of interest, I should say. And I just want to know, was Mr. Cole's number one of those 6? If so, why wasn't it pursued? If it wasn't, why wasn't it in there?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, it's a lot easier to find a guy who's wandering around alone, effectively. It's very cold out, not a lot of people on the street, probably not a lot of cell phones active. Yet they were able to use cell phone data to arrest thousands of J6ers. In fact, that was the primary data that they used in a much more chaotic event. So they were perfectly happy to use cell phone data when it served the FBI's purposes, but not when it was just a random guy wandering around in the street alone. It's very obvious to find who he was.
Right. I think it boils down to priorities. One of the questions we have was this incompetence or malfeasance, right? Yeah. Did you know who it was, but that person didn't fit the profile of what ultimately the Select Committee on January 6th wanted to pin this on Trump and conservatives. So was it because it didn't fit that profile? Was there political pressure to not pursue it? Or was there just political pressure to refocus all of the FBI resources on going after grandma who went into the Capitol? These are some of the questions that we want answered. Of course, we respect that there is an ongoing investigation, and we're fully supportive of Deputy Director Bongino and the entire team that's working on it now.
Sure.
But as part of our role is oversight, and we're running a concurrent investigation alongside with the FBI, but also that oversight responsibility we have in Congress is we need to know, why did this take 5 years when under Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino, it was solved in 2 months?
I've been around DC quite a bit, Mr. Chairman, and I know that what most of the organs in government, in fact, all of them, are concerned with is PR. They care about the media. They care about the perception. And so with the pipe bomber instance, you probably have 99% of the American public that want to get the terrorists that we all agree with on January 6th committed an act of terrorism, right? This is the number one guy. This should have been suspect number one because he planted bombs, right? And there's not a single American that agreed with that, whether it's MAGA or Black Bloc, like no matter what, like you're sitting there saying, this individual is a terrorist and let's go get him. But this is the last person rounded up, not the first. So what does that tell you?
Again, I think it's priorities and maybe political influence. We won't know until we dig deeper. Fortunately, this FBI has been much more transparent. They've worked in partnership with my committee. We've actually been sharing documents and information and evidence and testimonies with each other to try to get to the bottom of all this. But you're dealing with government agencies and a lot of people that have been there for a long time, and there is a protectionism that happens within government bureaucracies. And so we're going to have to break that veil. I know that Deputy Director Bongino is dedicated to, at least while he is there, to have an FBI that is focused on what their motto is one portion of the motto is integrity. And that's one thing that we have to rebuild because, quite frankly, the American people have a huge distrust of anything in government, especially when it comes to the FBI. And I think this is a chance to redeem themselves by getting to the truth and exposing the truth and holding people accountable.
Does this pass the smell test for you? And here's just one example, of the footage being doctored by the authorities when they were releasing it. You can see that the eyes of the pipe bomber were clearly blurred here. There was degraded footage that was released from the DNC. There seems to be a considerable amount of doctoring of the evidence. And now when you see the actual affidavit after the arraignment, you see that the preponderance of evidence is like an avalanche for this guy. Everything from receipts to his license plate to his cell phone pings, same cell phone he's had since 2015. He lived in Virginia. He's not far away. They probably have DNA evidence somewhere. I mean, this was like a hit, an obvious hit. And the evidence, it defies logic that this wasn't a cover-up by the FBI, the Biden FBI.
Yeah, and I agree with you with all of this. That's one of the things that we were doing with the FBI is releasing actual videos that we had acquired, which did not have some of that masking on it.
Yes.
And one thing the FBI was interested in was crowdsourcing. Getting more of this information out there and having a broader number of people looking at it. Maybe it would spark the memory of someone. Maybe it would help identify this person. But yeah, it's there's so many other questions we have. For instance, we just uncovered that there was a third stop that no one ever identified. Is that the gray hoodie guy, as we've all become to know him, actually stopped at the Congressional Black Caucus before he went to the DNC, went to a bush, knelt down by a bush and spent, a minute or so right there by the bush. But no one had ever identified that until we found a new camera angle showing that he went to that location. And we released that just a couple of weeks before the FBI made their arrest. And so why was it that information was kept from the American public? I mean, even the FBI, when they sent out information about his route of travel, they show he walked by the Congressional Black Caucus, but they never identified that he actually went onto the property and knelt down by a bush. And, it's at night and the video angle is not enough to see what he was doing, but obviously he was either, it appears, planting something or picking something up, or maybe he was just, making a phone call or something. But he spent a significant amount of time right there at Congressional Black Caucus. But that's just evidence that it took 5 years to come out with.
Yeah, it'd be nice to know who he was on the phone with. He seemed
exactly,
to be on the phone the whole time. So,
and I think that's part of what's happening right now with the congressional investigation, or the FBI's investigation. We're pursuing some of this as well. I asked yesterday if we could peer review their investigative reports, and they agreed to do that, so we can have our team looking at it as well. It's always good to have multiple eyes on an investigation, and that's what was different about this FBI versus the last FBI. First of all, they had a willingness to get this done, and it was a priority. It was important to the FBI to do this, and they brought new eyes in. They brought new expertise to come in and look at it. Those that weren't on the team before, they're actually the ones that came in and solved this case. So I think that's the biggest thing that was missing between this FBI and Biden FBI, is actually a commitment to get to the truth and let the American people know what's happening and hold those accountable.
You just said something remarkable there, Mr. Chairman, that I think is going to make a lot of news. I mean, this footage was doctored, made grainy, dumbed down, degraded. You can see that as a matter of fact. It's empirical and demonstrable in the actual evidence when you break it down. Who was sabotaging this investigation? I mean, it must have been somebody from the inside, and you can see it in everything from Jake Tapper saying that the suspect's white when he's black. You can see how useful this narrative was in locking up J6ers. We know as a matter of fact and protocol, because of many court reporters who've been on the show saying that this pipe bomb was used in order to upcharge for terroristic charges and to get maximal penalties for J6ers. This was a narrative that was used in order to apply punishment to Meemaw McGurk, right, from Okeechobee, in order to say that she's in league with a terrorist, with a guy who plans, and she was part of that. And so, I mean, I think that you are potentially looking at probably the greatest FBI cover-up in history here. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think the entirety of everything that was put in from every agency regarding January 6th, every investigation, and including the January 6th Select Committee, were never interested in getting to the truth. They had a predetermined narrative, which was this was Donald Trump's fault. He put it all together. It was the ultra MAGA, it was conservative Republicans that tried to take over the government. That was their narrative, and they weren't going to let anything, including the truth, get in the way of presenting that. And we see it all throughout my previous investigation, the last Congress, of the Select Committee on January 6th. Any information, and there was a significant amount of evidence that exonerated Donald Trump from all of those charges, but that information was never kept. Some of it was deleted. Some of it was sent to other agencies, to the White House, to the Department of Homeland Security. And we spent a significant amount of time uncovering that information. And to a T, every piece of information that they tried to make sure no one would see, every bit of it was counter to the narrative that they were presenting to the American people. And so I think that has just been the mantra through the entire January 6th investigation, until Speaker McCarthy and Speaker Johnson made it a priority to create these committees for me to look into this. And the members of my committee and our incredible team, no one had taken an objective look at January 6th. So I think, as I put in my report at the end of the last Congress, January 6th was a massive amount of failures, whether they were incompetence or malfeasance. We're going to continue to look in that. But there definitely was cover up by several entities to try to hide the truth. And so I just think it fits in with the political corruption that we've seen in Washington, D.C., that has just grown over the years. And that's one thing that I really appreciate about this president, is he is dedicated to uncovering those individuals, exposing them, and holding them accountable, because we have to clean up this government. Benny, I've said this many times. Americans want a government that they can be proud of, not scared of. And that's where we are right now. We have a government that people are genuinely scared of.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. And why wouldn't you be? You could see in filing after filing, in scandal after scandal, that information is withheld from the public, that crimes are either perpetrated or planted against us. Everything from the JFK assassination through to Thomas Crooks, you can see that the FBI is openly lying to Congress, saying that Thomas Crooks was a right-winger, when we know as a matter of fact that he was a left-winger. We know that through his comments, he used pronouns. He used they, them pronouns. And yet the FBI is representing the opposite of that to Congress. How the hell are you supposed to do your job when the investigative body that you fund, that supposedly works for you, is lying to you?
And that's why it's important that we do this peer review of their investigative report. Look, I've known Director Bongino, Deputy Director Bongino, and Director Patel for quite some time. And my relationship with Dan Bongino is pretty close. And I know that he is the type of person who wants to clean the willingness to allow our committee to peer review these investigative reports shows me that there is an openness. There is some transparency that they're trying to bring into these investigations. And look, I'm sensitive to ongoing investigations. I told them I don't want to do anything that could interrupt the ability for us to get a fair and equitable trial and a conviction out of this. But it is important that we hold everyone accountable. And so I'm optimistic going in this direction. But as you know, these type of people are embedded very deeply within our government, and it's going to take more than just a couple of years to root this out and clean things up. Yeah,
so let's talk just a little bit about the tertiary events of the pipe bomber. Carlin Younger, you are finally bringing in for questioning. This is the woman who found the pipe bomb by the RNC. She swears to authorities that it wasn't there at 11:30 when she went and did a load of laundry. And then she comes back and the pipe bomb's there. Well, of course, this is impossible based on the FBI's own timelines. So who's telling the truth here? What's going on? What do you expect to find with Carlin Younger?
Well, that's why we want to talk to her, because we want to she is the only civilian that has actually laid eyes on the pipe bomb, right? She reported it. Everything else was found by law enforcement, and it was, pretty much tightly held information from that point. And so we just want to talk to her and get more details of what did she see, because she made a statement that there was still time left on that 60-minute egg timer that was the fuse for the bomb. So you don't put out a bomb.
Can we stop there? Yeah. What is that? What is that? Can we just please help? I again, I have a room temperature IQ. Explain it to me like you would to a very loyal Labrador. So how the hell is that supposed to work, Mr. Chair?
Well, the idea is that you have to have something to create an electrical current to ignite the explosives that's inside the pipe, right? Create the pressure and the explosion.
Yeah.
And one common way of doing this is using a standard off-the-shelf 60-minute egg timer that you just clip some type of electrical probe. In this case, it was paper clips. That at some point, once that timer reaches zero, those paper clips connect, creating the circuit, which causes the explosion. So in layman's terms, using this type of egg timer, you've got 1 hour from when it is armed until the device goes off. And the FBI is telling us and saying that these were operable devices. I mean, they were devices that could have exploded. So when she finds the device, she stated that there was still time on the egg timer, right? I think she said 20 minutes. So it's impossible to place an active device at 7:30 or 8 p.m. on the 5th and it still have time left on it many hours later. So what that indicates, there's several different things. One is that someone went back and set the timers, or those devices were picked up and then replaced, or it could just be that the egg timer malfunctioned and it just stopped at some point. But then you're talking about both egg timers, both stopping and not being able to detonate. So we're looking into that. And I think what she could tell us could shed light on it, because if the device she found was behind the RNC. The device that the bomb squads detonated and destroyed was over at the DNC. If you think about the DNC, at 8 o'clock that morning, the Secret Service came and swept the building because President-elect Kamala Harris was supposed to be there at 11:45. Their dogs, which are supposed to be some of the best bomb-sniffing dogs in the world, passed by where that device was multiple times and appeared to never hit on it. So that's always been a question of ours. Were they bad dogs? What's the deal here? Now we're thinking, it's just a theory, we don't know, that possibly devices weren't there at that point, based on Mrs. Younger's testimony that she did not see the device earlier in the morning, and that the Secret Service dog didn't appear to hit on the device after multiple passes.
Of course.
So with that, could it be that they were placed for some reason? They picked them back up and then put them back out again. This is just a theory we're working on. And so that's what we hope to get, is more information out of that. We're going to be talking to K9X to find out maybe the dog did hit, but the handler was just not paying attention. This is one of the areas that we have to pursue, because the way I've always run this investigation is you got to come up with a theory, but then you try to prove that theory false. If you try to prove it true, you will every time, because you'll discard information that is counterproductive to what you want it to be. But I encourage our folks, you try to prove a theory false. And if you can't, then you probably have found the truth.
Mr. Chairman, I have here the photos from the official sources of the pipe bombs. They are exactly as you described, but even more so, they are visible to the naked eye.
Yes.
Sitting right there on a park bench. And then the other one by the RNC was like just sitting there by a rat trap on the ground,
right
in the middle, effectively in the middle of a sidewalk, right in the middle of an alleyway. These aren't hidden. These aren't tough to find. These aren't hard to see. The sun's been up since 7 a.m.
Right.
Anyone can look and see them. They obviously don't look like refuse. They look like bombs, is what they look like.
Right.
And so, just by sheer probability, Occam's razor, with all of the police dogs, with both bombs malfunctioning, with Carl and Younger saying they weren't there in the morning, you're just led to believe the least numbers of assumptions is that these bombs were placed like around noon. These bombs were placed like 11 a.m. in the morning. Just how the hell would the kitchen timers even work? There are so many concurrent miracles that would have had to happen for these bombs to have been discovered at the same time, sitting in the middle of the sidewalk. Where does that lead you? I guess you don't know yet, but that implies a much broader conspiracy, doesn't it?
Well, it does. And that's the thing that we try to avoid, is just going down a conspiracy path, but taking a theory and trying to prove it wrong. But there's still so many questions regarding this, because one of the things that has raised our eyebrows is as we go and we look for video on January 6th, because we want early morning video on January 6th to see, did anybody go back to these locations?
Of course.
Unfortunately, that video apparently doesn't exist anymore. We do have the January 5th video, but we've been told that no one ever preserved January 6th. So that does raise our eyebrows a bit. But you're right. Both devices were placed either, the person doing the pipe bomb wasn't very experienced. He was just trying to get them down and go, or they were left to be found. And so it is pretty amazing. And, Mrs. Younger said she walked out her back door. It wasn't there earlier in the morning, but she saw it later, and it would, give reason to believe that she would have noticed it if it was there in the morning. So that's one of the reasons we do want to talk to her.
Ask yourself this: if you are a woman, or if your wife goes out to do a load of laundry, or if you're just out getting the garbage. Yeah, I took the garbage out of my house this morning, sir. Do you think you would have noticed that?
I think so, yeah.
You think you would have noticed like a literal pipe connection to a kitchen timer with a bunch of wires coming out of it? Red and black wires. Looks literally like a prop bomb from a movie.
Right.
Like, you think you would have noticed that a little bit? That's why everyone's,
I believe so, yeah.
That's wild. Okay, you just blew my mind here. I'm sorry, if you don't mind staying just a few more minutes. Like,
sure.
You just told me that, so according to the FBI, according to the internals at the FBI, there are 39,000 different visual elements showing the hoodie guy, right? Mm-hmm. Pipe bomber. We call him the Steve Urkel bomber. Showing this guy, because thick Coke bottle glasses, right? Dorky, spectrum-y kid from the suburbs. There's 39,000 videos showing his movements that night from different camera angles. Washington, D.C., Capitol Hill in particular is the most surveilled area arguably in the world. There are so many cameras up there.
Yes.
And you're telling me that there's no footage from January 6th of the actual areas where you would have to travel to place these pipe bombs.
Now, we do have cameras along some of these, any Capitol Police cameras that we have that show some of the walking paths. Those do exist, but none of the camera angles like behind the RNC, behind the DNC, that we know of that exist today, of where this person would have been, have the closest angles. And so that has inhibited our investigation into this theory of maybe they were placed back out again. And this is something new that we've just come across. So we're starting to scour through all the Capitol Police cameras, because there is a Capitol Police building over by the DNC. It's called the Fairchild Building, and they do have cameras there. And that's been some of the cameras that have given us most of the evidence. So our team is going back through, and it takes a while when you look at how many cameras there are and you're looking for hours of video, because we're talking about this device was put out at around 8 p.m. on the 5th. Now we've got to look from 8 p.m. all the way to 1 p.m. on the 6th to see, did anyone else go by there? Was there any other traffic, any suspicious activity going on there? So that takes a while. But again, these are theories that we're trying to go through step by step, box by box, and try to come up with what is a reasonable explanation as to how the Secret Service dog didn't hit on the one device, Mrs. Younger didn't see the other device. It's just a logical conclusion is possibly they weren't there at that time. But then you have to ask, if they weren't, why were they picked up? Why were they placed again? And so, it could come out that she just missed it and that the dog did hit on it and the handler wasn't paying attention, but it did make several passes. Or, weather condition, whatever. But, when you have that many circumstances, generally where there's smoke, there's some level of fire. So we have to track this down. And another thing that I hope that's happening, and I believe they're doing this, is the FBI looking at his cell phone data to see if he came back again. If he didn't, then did he have somebody he was working with? Was there a co-conspirator that came in and actually either set the timers or picked up the devices and put them back out?
We have so many videos of him on the phone. He was ubiquitously using his device, wandering quite aimlessly around Capitol Hill, almost to be spotted. That's why people are screaming Patsy, and it's why many people on this program have told us that these are not operable bombs. I wonder, Mr. Chairman, do you believe that these were operable bombs?
I can just go by what the this FBI is telling us, is that their lab report is they were operable bombs. Now, they were capable of exploding. We have been told that maybe the wiring wasn't exactly right on one of them, but the FBI has repeated multiple times to us that they were operable devices.
So real quickly here, expanding out, I appreciate you using the term theories, because I don't like the term conspiracy theory. It's obviously made up. Right. There's just proven fact, and then there's people who are, I guess, at least in good faith, trying to figure out what's actually happening. Right. And those are just theories. And you can have theories. That's legal. Free association, free thought is still legal in this country. You can have theories, and then I'm perfectly, I want the facts. I want you to lay that evidence out before me. And I'm not doubting that Brian Cole Jr. is the one wandering around in the hoodie. The evidence, again, seems demonstrable, but it seems like there was a cover-up and that perhaps there was a lot more going on, and it wasn't just some autistic loner living in his mother's basement. It's always tends to be that, isn't it? It's quite the archetype. The guy was apparently addicted to My Little Pony. Yeah, the guy was apparently a brony, addicted, to My Little Pony. It's like they always find these guys straight out of Central Casting. My final question for you is, there are pieces of evidence here in this investigation that are obviously true conspiracies, like that the January 6th committee did delete and destroy evidence, that the select committee did try to impede or manipulate witnesses in order to harm Donald Trump. A lot of this was done by Liz Cheney. There are texts and communications that prove that. Right. A lot of people question Nancy Pelosi's role on January 6th. Very strange videos of her declaring she's been waiting for trespassing at the Capitol. I've been waiting for this. Like, what? You've been waiting for trespassing at the Capitol? Like, that's what you're saying when the Capitol's under siege? Well, what the hell is this? They end up charging, of course, every J6er with that. It doesn't make any sense. Nancy Pelosi's obviously snapping on reporters who even ask about this. What is your committee going to do? Is your committee going to bring Nancy Pelosi in and ask questions? What about Liz Cheney? She's a private citizen now. Do you plan on bringing Liz Cheney in under oath?
Well, that's one of the things that we're looking at doing as we continue down this path. You know, we looked extensively at the Select Committee on January 6th in the previous Congress and my previous committee. This committee, we're going to be transitioning back over to some of that, and we'll take a look at that if we need to bring them in. The problem we've had with Nancy Pelosi, she is a sitting member of Congress, and Republicans even made that argument that you can't depose, you can't subpoena a sitting member of Congress because of the speech and debate clause. And so, it's always easier if you can just find the evidence without having to go through the legal wrangling of subpoenas and then fighting subpoenas and all this. But we are not stopping our search for the truth, because there is a political element to almost every aspect of this. And when I'm talking about the political element, is political influence on investigation, heavy political influence on the Select Committee on January 6th, political influence apparently from different Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Defense. We uncovered in the last Congress that there was political influence at the Department of Defense who purposely held back deploying the National Guard after they were the approval to deploy them was given. There were efforts within the Department of Defense to hold them back until, quote, the violence was over. And we've had some testify, well, we didn't want it to seem like we were participating in insurrection. That boggled my mind, because by holding back the troops that were requested by the chief of Capitol Police, then you did participate in what you perceived was an insurrection. So that doesn't make sense. So we do know that there was tremendous amount of political influence. How deep did that go? And did it go so far as usurping justice?
The audience on our show is behind you 100%, 1000%. We have been one of the few channels that has decided to go headlong into this and ask every possible question about it. And, it's what makes us, some of our older clips with Cash and Dan, go so viral, is because we did talk with them about this before they took over the FBI. Right. And we're happy to see people finally focusing on it. The truth shall set you free. If you want truth, follow Representative Barry Loudermilk right here. He's got 60,000 subscribers on X. He's one of those very rare unsung heroes in Congress who's truly seeking out truth and doing the hard work. And we appreciate you for that. Merry Christmas, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, Merry Christmas to you, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we hop over to our next guest, it was wild. I mean, that just blew my mind. Williams, you want your conspiracy? Here you go. You don't have to look far to find real cover-up, true and demonstrable and empirical fed slop that is being fed to us. You don't have to look far. And it's something that is extremely damaging. Is it shooting President Trump in the head damaging? What about Charlie Kirk's assassination? Well, it's on the level. Yeah, it is. Because this was an assassination by other means. The goal here was to put Charlie Kirk in jail, to put me in jail, to put the entire MAGA movement in jail. As I've said many times, I was there on January 6th. I wasn't storming the Capitol. But I was invited to listen to Trump's speech. The goal was to expand that to everybody who attended Donald Trump's speech at the White House. Was that everybody was there. So was Charlie. And a lot of very influential people inside of the Turning Point orbits, the president's orbits. That was the intended goal. So yes, this should be seen as on the level of assassination. Shooting Trump in the head, this is another way to do it. The goal, of course, as you saw in Jack Smith's filings, was to use January 6th as a pretext to arrest Donald Trump, charge him federally in D.C., do exactly what they did to all the J6ers to Donald Trump, but far worse. They would have put him in jail for 400 years. They would have put him in jail in Washington. He would have never gotten out. Put him in the clink in D.C., lock him up in our federal city. And like they would do to a Civil War general an insurrectionist. So yeah, you want your conspiracy theory? I got it for you. You want your Fed slop? Here it is. It's the last 5 years of the pipe bomber investigation. Am I satisfied with the results? I'm glad that we're getting somewhere. But do I think that we are at the end? No, I do not. Do I think they acted alone? Of course not. I wasn't born yesterday. That made me laugh. If you were born yesterday, you probably got yourself into high-interest credit card debt. American financing can get you out. High-interest credit card debt is something that is crippling in our nation. It is modern-day slavery. It is indentured servitude. You most likely will never pay off a debt that is at 20 or 30% interest rates. These are usury. You should refinance with my friends at American Financing. They can help you out today. The Fed dropped rates yesterday. It's time to make sure that your credit card debt is refinanced into rates that are acceptable and I think moral and agreeable. American Financing can do this for you at 888-528-1219. That's 888-528-1219, americanfinancing.net/Benny. Somebody who is very rational and agreeable is our next guest, the Attorney General of the fine state of Florida. I would say great, but I'm sad about what happened in Miami. I don't like Miami being a blue city, but there's a lot to be said about that. Nonetheless, very proud to have James Uthmeyer back on the program with some big announcements. Mr. Attorney General, thank you so much for being on the show today. We just had Barry Loudermilk on as running the January 6th committee. It's just like a complete barn burner. I know that you're here serving as our state AG, but if you don't mind, can I ask you about a national issue, which is some of the concurrent investigations that are going on, whether it be Thomas Crooks or Tyler Robinson or the pipe bomber. What would be your advice in order to get the American public read in on so many of these issues that seem to be kind of fraying the country right now, right?
My advice would be to investigate to the fullest, ask every question. Thank you, Benny, for continuing to ask these questions. I think the American people have lost faith and credibility in law enforcement. They hear about inquiries, investigations that don't actually go anywhere. Things just get swept up the rug. We stop asking questions. And at the end of the day, we don't give the American people the answers they need. The questions you're asking are the right ones. There's a lot that doesn't make sense. People can call us conspiracy theorists, but I think you're onto something that's massively important for our country and its history.
There's no such thing as a conspiracy theory. I mean, that's a slur. That's a slur that was made up after JFK was shot. And what did we learn just a month ago, based on Anna Paulina's investigation here from the great state of Florida? He found out that the CIA has been withholding a document that proves that they bumped into Lee Harvey Oswald in Mexico, that they were working, at the very least, they were working in tandem with him on various operations. This has been proven. We have the documents now. And so it's actually, you're a conspiracy theorist if you don't think that there was some type of intel involvement and at least the operability of Lee Harvey Oswald. They've now just completely admitted it. The records are there. The documents are there. And so, yeah, who was right all along, right?
Yeah, the deep state for decades has been hoping that people at home will not ask questions, that they are not smart enough to figure out the truth. And again, God bless you for digging into it. Representative Luna is doing a great job on many fronts. And here in Florida, where we see wrongs that need to be righted, we will dig in and we will absolutely investigate and prosecute to the fullest. You got my word on that.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of good action that's happening here from your office. Let's start from the top, because you've been on a tear this week, quite a barn burner, beginning with the transgender surgeries to mutilate children. You are going to be prosecuting that as a affront to human rights, which it is, as butchery. Can you tell me the state of this prosecution? How are you going to frame this up for the court?
Sure. Well, as an initial matter, we were the first state to pass a law prohibiting these so-called transgender surgeries and therapies for minors. It's a criminal offense, a felony for a doctor to subject a kid to one of these transition surgeries, we will absolutely go after any doctor. I mean, that is sick. Those people are wrong. They need to be behind bars for the rest of their lives. But we want to go further than that. We filed a lawsuit against all of these medical organizations that have been recommending and pushing these treatments on parents, pressuring parents, telling them that these are safe. It's the only way to save your kid. Kids are going to commit suicide if you don't do this mutilation to them. That is wrong. The evidence shows they knew there were risks. They knew there were unknowns. The human brain is still developing all the way up until your mid-20s. To do this to 7, 8, 9-year-olds, I mean, it can only be described as child abuse. So we want to hurt them in their wallet. We want them to cough up and accountable for what they've done, because they made billions. The profit is several billion a year that these medical organizations get off of these surgeries and so-called therapies. It's wrong, and in Florida, we're going to end it for once and for all.
Now, is this based on Florida state law? Can you tell me, like, this is based on the state law of Florida? Could this be done nationally? Would every state have to pass their own law in order to bring these similar suits?
This is done on Florida's Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Act laws. That's got statutory damages of $10,000 for every time you say something that's misleading. And we also can see coordination amongst the organizations, which is going to up the penalties that are imposed on these defendants. I believe every state has similar laws. Every state could be doing this. I hope others will pick up the sword and fight for our kids, fight for our parents, fight for common sense and the God-given law of two sexes.
So would these companies be able to find some type of settlement with the state and say, we promise we won't do this anymore, or we'll pay a restitution? What is the intended result for these butchery companies that are, of course, trying to manipulate and destroy our children's lives?
Well, first, I mean, if there's any effort to continue doing this to kids, then, I mean, that is criminal, and we will hold them accountable in criminal law court. On the civil side here, we want to go back and we want to hold them accountable for the wrongs that have happened for years. Could there be some sort of settlement? That's possible, but we're going to hold feet to fire. We absolutely want the misleading information to stop, and that could go far beyond kids. That could go into older teenagers, people in their 20s. I mean, I don't think this is healthy for anybody, but certainly when you're talking about a young person that is still maturing and developing, when you do this surgery, Benny, I think it's important to know that's not just changing your life in that moment. That is changing somebody's entire future. That is changing their entire life. That is robbing them of a normal life. So we're going to hold them accountable. It's going to be expensive. And at the end of the day, most important is to stop this misleading, deceptive information that is pushed upon parents.
Such a wonderful thing. If every state did this, it would stop entirely. If every state did this, then these kind of practices would be ghettoized, in a eugenics style, or like the practice of slavery. I mean, it'd be pushed to like the 1% of, only 1% of America were slave owners, right? Like it would be pushed down to the demographics that are truly sunken laws. It'd be so nice to push it to the very edges of society instead of mainstreaming it. And then that's how you can properly stamp it out. And this is the start of that.
Amen.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to further left-wing propaganda that seeps into every red state, and that would be Starbucks. And it's more than just the Starbucks red cup controversy this Christmas. It shows how old I am, man. That's like 10 years ago. Like, they had red cups instead of saying Christmas. Boy, now it's Starbucks DEI practices and hiring, and you dropped, again, another heater here. It is, tell me, what are you cooking for Starbucks?
Benny, there's not enough time in the day for all the fights that need to be brought, but we're going to do our best. Here, Starbucks had discriminatory race-based preferences for hiring and advancement within the company. They had certain quotas and preferences for people based on the color of their skin, not work ethic, not work performance. And so we've brought a suit here under Florida civil rights laws. I know every state right now is running out there. The cool thing to do is prohibit DEI, and Florida's done that too. But this is going way back to the civil rights laws that have been on the books for a very long time. unused in most states. And, we're protecting white people to have fair treatment. We're protecting people based on their work performance, not the color of their skin. What Starbucks has done is wrong and it is illegal. I think other companies are doing it too. We're watching. We will bring the hammer across the board. Anybody that's going to engage in biased, discriminatory, race-based hiring practices, we'll be watching and we'll be coming.
So can you explain what this Starbucks action is, and what does your office plan on doing with Starbucks in this state?
Sure. Well, it's a civil action. We brought a robust complaint. We're seeking heavy damages. Obviously, we're seeking a change in behavior. We want to know that they're no longer engaged in this DEI HR policies. We'll take them to court. We can engage in settlement talks, but at the end of the day here, we're kind of a no plea deal state. We want people to change behavior and we want to hold them responsible for state law. So we want to see, equal hiring processes. We want to see work ethic valued. We don't want to see bias on the color of people's skin. And we would like to hold them accountable for damages for breaking our law for a long time.
This is sort of the Disney playbook, right? Like,
yeah, you got to make an example. Every other company out there should be watching. Get your house in order now. Correct your ways. Follow Florida law. Otherwise, you will be the next Starbucks. It's so awesome because this is, of course, the fastest state growing economically in the entire country per capita. Every single business, everyone who knows. I'm going to New York this weekend. Like, all of Wall Street's effectively moved to New York. Wall Street's a ghost town. Those companies are now here in the state of Florida. Why wouldn't you be? One of the highest incoming account bases is here in the western side of Florida, according to JP Morgan, in the entire world. I think it is the number one in the world of incoming large accounts. I mean, all of business is moving to the state. And so it's really project the culture of this state onto that business to make sure all these left-wing California and New York businesses don't bring that culture here. You did that with Disney. Can you give me an update on Disney? Like, is that battle has been well and truly won by your office and by the governor's office? Yeah, it has. They're now operating like all other businesses in the state. There's no special treatment. They do not have their own special district where they get to set their own tax rate. There's a state-imposed board that oversees that district now, and the district really needed to continue due to the long-term bonding that had been executed. And so Disney, they've come into compliance. They're being good actors, good partners to the state. They've invested over $17 billion in commitments to continue growing the economy of Central Florida, and we're continuing to work together. But at the end of the day, nobody's getting special treatment and handouts here in Florida. We're the number one state economy, the number one place for retirees and people looking to start businesses because we're the free state of Florida and we do it right and just.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Tampa, so we're often in Orlando for one thing or another. My kids do tend to like it, and while everybody was like, Nikki Haley was shrieking like, "Why didn't you move Disney to South Carolina?" It's like the opposite's happened. Like, Universal has expanded by 500%. Disney's planning on building some new universe, like tripling the size in Orlando. They're not doing that in LA. They're doing that here in Florida.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Here in Florida, they want to have a great theme park environment. I think a lot of the leftist ideologies that you see being pushed at kids often comes from California, and we've seen that wane. I think they're realizing that's not what the American people want. We want our kids to be kids. Let them grow up and play and be innocent and not be sexualized at a young age. So I'm proud of what Disney's done here in Florida. Still work to do always, and we'll be watching, but we continue to do the right thing.
Fantastic. The only other news out of Florida was the president and Pam Bondi asked for a judge to release all of the information that was under seal in the ongoing Epstein saga. This is obviously the only state where Epstein even got like a slap on the wrist for his heinous crimes. I think the country is, looking forward to just open transparency, kind of how we started the conversation here.
Right.
Maximal transparency in order to restore trust that is at such a huge deficit. When are we going to expect that to happen? I know it's I think that's a federal question, right? Not a state question. But When do we expect that to happen? Any updates?
Yeah, I don't have an answer on the federal side. Governor DeSantis signed an order several years ago at this point, ordering the release of everything related to the state investigations on Epstein. So that was all made public. I think people forget that here in Florida. I do believe in transparency. I'm glad to see the president calling for release of this information. I don't know exactly when that'll happen, but I hope it doesn't take long.
All right. Redistricting.
Everyone
asking the question, what's going on? Sorry, we're hitting all the bingo cards here. This is probably the last time before the end of the year that we'll be on the show. So I got to hit every bingo card, Mr. Attorney General.
Sure, I'll add one more today before I go. Yeah, redistricting. We've had obviously a lot of population change here in Florida, especially in the wake of COVID. We also have been watching the courts change their views, recognize that some of the Voting Rights Act laws that have been on the books for a long time are very likely unconstitutional. So we're waiting to see what the U.S. Supreme Court will do. Our state Supreme Court had a ruling that upheld our last map, which had removed a racially gerrymandering district that a lot of people said was an unlawful act, but we did prevail. So I know our legislature and the governor, they're looking again to make sure that we are redistricting in a fair, compact way, and it's going to be a good thing for the country. The
Attorney General was on yesterday. Deputy Attorney General for Civil Rights, Harmeet Dillon. And she argued that case at the Supreme Court, and she was there. She said that is cooked. Section 2 of the Civil Rights Voting Act, like that.
Yeah, it seems like the court's going to come down in the right way on that. The questions during the oral argument indicated that. So we can expect, I think, a change that is going to obviously trigger, multiple states needing to make changes. And in Florida, we act very fast. But before I go, I want to tell you, we're going to be filing a lawsuit against Roblox today. It's been a big topic. We've had both a criminal and civil investigation. We've launched many subpoenas. The information that's come back is not good. It's very clear that Roblox, they knew that their application was exposing kids to harm. Many predators have been able to reach kids through this application. They have not done a good enough job with age verification and monitoring the communications to kids on the site. People that are prior registered sex offenders kicked off the app have been able to easily get back on. So we're filing a civil lawsuit today. This is going to be a big one. Again, we're sending a message out there to all of big tech, all of social media. If you carelessly, recklessly endanger our kids, if you don't have the right protocols in place to protect them from predators, you will be held accountable. Florida will be coming for you, as will other states.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. Especially as a father of young children, obviously we keep these devices out of their hands. My wife and I often talk about, they don't even have iPads, right? And so it's like, how long can you hold off in a modern society from keeping your kids having a smart device? And I know that this is a real problem for people in our neighborhood, that this can just become, they can become terminally online if you're not careful. Mm-hmm. And there's so much filth, so much.
There's a lot of danger and evil
scum
out there. You're darn right.
Yeah. So much.
And I know technology's changing; it's inevitable. But companies in this field, they have an obligation to make sure we're protecting our kids.
Yeah, I know Congress on a federal level is going to be passing some major child protection legislation. So you're in line with that. So we thank you, Mr. Attorney General, as ever. This is proven here. Actually, the Roblox suit is a, and we look forward to promoting that, is a perfect example as to why I chose to raise my family and my children in this state. It's a perfect example as to why, whether you're in Florida or not, you should follow the Attorney General. Right here, he's got nearly 60,000 followers on X. He is, I would argue, the single most effective Attorney General in the United States of America, and we're proud to call it home right here in Florida. Merry Christmas, James.
Thanks, Benny. Merry Christmas. Good to see you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a twofer here. We're going to tell you about our Christmas ornaments this Christmas season. As you know, we are heading up to the White House today for a Christmas party. We will be heading to the Children's White House Christmas party and giving a speech in New York City. And my wife's going to be on Kayleigh McEnany's show this weekend on Fox. So I'm very excited about all of that. A lot of exciting opportunities for us to place ornaments on famous Christmas trees, as we have done throughout the country. Here is your Christmas ornaments. ladies and gentlemen, you can still get them. I know that it is the middle of December. Let's just call it the middle of December. My goodness. But we are still shipping every single day thousands of ornaments. $5 per ornament. No inflation around here. Made by American veterans in American manufacturing. No communists or criminal alien hands touch these ornaments. They are shipped to you. And this beautiful bundle, you can get them individually. Pop them on your tree. Here's our tree of the day. This is from Myron. Myron, thank you for this gorgeous Christmas tree. Look at the B-2 bomber and the trash truck. This is a great tree. You send in your tree, ladies and gentlemen, to Klein at BennyJohnson.com. Klein at BennyJohnson.com, subject Christmas tree, and we will put your tree on the show. This is a great one. Thank you very much, Myron, who back-end supports our Christmas ornament campaign. Because it is a campaign. We have a campaign to bring joy and light to the world here on Christmas. And this is our, even though I mean, if you get caught in the conversations online, you will see that there are plenty of people that are here to bring darkness to this glorious Christmas season. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, evil cannot create, it can only destroy. Be on the side of creation, be on the side of Christendom, be on the side of light, especially in this Christmas season. Shopify is who helps us do that. How? So, well, Shopify is the back end that helps deliver these ornaments to you. They help platform the actual ornaments themselves on our site. They help us with the description of the ornaments, the shipping of the ornaments, the delivery over the ornaments. Shopify is your one-click, one-up to make sure that you get new customers and a robust business. They've helped us out. This is, how we're able to ship now. I think we're above 50,000 ornaments shipped this year. And so if you want to turn your dreams into... Ooh, we're getting good with that, Klein. Give them the best shot at success with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial and start selling today at Shopify.com/Benny. Go to Shopify.com/Benny. Shopify.com/Benny. Ladies and gentlemen, why don't we end with a piece of good news? How Republicans tricked Jasmine Crockett into running for Senate. All right, let's just roll into it. Why not? Republicans apparently tricked Jasmine Crockett into running for Senate. There's a big hook and ladder situation here. The National Republican Senatorial Committee began including Crockett's name in polling in July. The Daily Caller News Foundation first reported, and it showed that she was leading in a hypothetical Democratic primary race. And then, since the NRSC has been working behind the scenes to get Crockett to jump into the race, they just used her own ego against her. Genius, by the way. When we saw the results, we were like, okay, you got to disseminate this as far as wide as we can to try and scoop her into the race. Obviously, crippling black hole narcissists always love seeing themselves get more power and get more fame. She obviously gives up her congressional seat, by the way, running for Senate. Her Senate polling is really bad. ALX, I don't know if you have any of that head-to-head. Maybe we can pop that up. Daily Caller asked the NRSC report and its polling. The committee's communications director pointed out that Crockett's own remarks and Democrat chances against John Cornyn. Crockett said herself that no Democrat is beating John Cornyn, and the threat of the U.S. Senate makes it clearer than ever that Crockett only wanted to run in order to run against Donald Trump and to build her own brand. Her statement was referring to Crockett's comments on a Politico podcast. In the podcast, Crockett discussed her potential Senate bid against Cornyn, stating, "I'm going to be flat out with you and tell you that I don't think there's a Democrat that can take out Cornyn." She added that her decision to run would depend on internal polling showing viability, and the NRSC handed her that polling on a silver platter and effectively just tricked her into running. Here is the latest polls out of the state of Texas showing that Jasmine Crockett is pretty much a whole 10 points behind every individual who may be running. Where's our friend Wesley Hunt on that? Where's our friend Wesley? Be funny to get Wesley Hunt versus Jasmine Crockett. Kind of what I'm interested. Like, Just for the memes, right? Just for the vibes. I think it'd be fun debates. Those would be debates that we would live stream, ladies and gentlemen, every single day. We live stream to you the truth. And that's what this show's all about. Sometimes that truth sucks. Like we all had to watch Charlie die. But what's most important about speaking the truth is that it does literally set you free. And you can like walk weightlessly, knowing that God's got your back, walk in the light. And if you center your life around that, your family, your God, it'll provide true meaning and true purpose. And then the world cannot shake you. It's a wonderful thing. So I'm very much looking forward to this weekend, this Christmas weekend with our kids. Hope that you are looking forward to it as well, wherever you happen to be. Keep sending us your beautiful Christmas trees and go forth with the verse of the day today from Luke. Glory to God in the highest and a peace on earth, goodwill towards men. Christmas message. Peace on earth. We're happy that President Trump's doing that. Now let's go to the midterms and focus entirely on our country. Peace in our country, please. Too much fighting. Too much fighting. Too much mudslinging. Too much doomerism. And too many people trying to break things when what Charlie and what all good wants to do is to create. That's what you should want. You should want to create. Be part of the good. Be part of creating and creation. That is the nature of God. Don't be part of evil. Don't be part of destroying. It's your boy, Benny. Thanks for joining us today. March on with us. Remember, the victory is assured. In the end, we win.
The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love. They should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. So I want to tell you that we'll never surrender. We never will. Ever. Ever.
Show where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to life. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.